All right, guys. So following the woke U.S. women's soccer team getting bronze in the Olympics, aka losing in the Olympics, a former U.S. women's national team soccer star Hope Solo did an interview with Goal on the It's All of Us show, in which she kind of gave us a more inside look at the politics in the locker room of the U.S. women's soccer team, right? And in this interview, she made some comments regarding the pressures of athletes to be political and how some athletes on the team, like Megan Rapinoe, essentially almost bully other teammates into kneeling for the anthem. And I'm gonna play you guys the audio version of what she said. That way you guys can kind of get an idea of the conversation.
Response that you've seen to this team's activism in the last few years, and how that has maybe evolved over time since you were playing, and maybe even since before you were playing. You know, this team has always been outspoken. They've always been unafraid to stand up for issues that they've believed in. But does it seem to you like the opposition to them and what they stand for has been growing louder in recent years?
Yeah, I think the rhetoric surrounding this team has been both divisive and inclusive. I guess it's kind of where we are in politics in this day and age. You know, the most important thing for this team is that they stand up for what's federal law here in the United States. Federal law in the United States stands for the Equal Pay Act since 1962, during John F. Kennedy days, and we still don't have equal pay here in the United States. So for me, that's something that shouldn't be divisive. You know, we're fighting for something that's been policy for over 60 years. And I think that's a very positive thing. You know, I think right now what I've seen is there's been so much debate about the kneeling and the not kneeling. I know most people stand against discrimination. I know most people that I speak to, and I live in the South. I live in a very conservative area here in North Carolina in the South. Obviously, I have friends on both sides of the aisle. But I think the kneeling thing can be very divisive. I do appreciate the fact that there's no national anthem right before the game to really remove that decision from athletes, because that's very tough. It's tough. I've seen Megan Rapinoe almost bully players into kneeling because she really wants to stand up for something in her particular way. But it's our right as Americans to do it, you know, in whatever way we're comfortable with. And I think that's really hard being on the main stage right now with so many political issues for athletes. There's a lot of pressure. And ultimately, at the end of the day, our number one focus should and has always been to win first. And unfortunately, a lot of those, you know, we're carrying the world on our back these days. A lot of the athletes are. You look at what LeBron James is doing, and he feels like he's carrying the world on his back for youth here in the United States. So there's a lot of outside pressures. But at the end of the day, you know, I think we have to remember that we're standing for what's federal law here in the United States. And that's the most important thing.
All right, guys. So she said some things there that I agree with and some things that I disagree with. Now, she started off her answer talking about how there are some things in regards to athletes being political that is divisive and unifying. Okay. Now, she said one of the things that were unifying is the fight for equal pay. Okay, she's saying that that is a law that's on the federal books, and we still don't have equal pay in this country. And I'm assuming that she's talking about the gender wage gap, okay, which is a myth. Okay, so, you know, to me, it's funny because she's saying what is unifying them is something that is a law, right, on federal books, according to her, and they still don't have it, as if everybody should agree that women deserve equal pay and that they currently aren't being paid equal pay. So therefore, it's unifying for them to stand up for that, right? When the reality is that the gender wage gap, again, it is a myth. That doesn't exist. The issue that she says unifies them is an issue that's not even a thing when you account for all the relevant factors that goes into why women aren't being paid the same as men in some occupations. Right. So that right there, I disagree with. But what I actually do agree with is when she starts to talk about the whole kneeling thing and how divisive that is, because I can imagine that in that locker room, any locker room, whether it's the women's soccer team or whatever, a lot of people are just not on board with what some may define as being disrespectful towards the country, right? Kneeling, doing the anthem, or performing some type of act that is in protest of this country, doing the anthem. A lot of people are not going to be comfortable with that, right? But we live in a world where these athletes are being pressured to be woke, to take a stand for issues that, in my opinion, are just not that serious, like police brutality, okay? And again, because of that, I can imagine that there's going to cause a lot of divisiveness, right? Like, imagine, being in a sport where a majority of your teammates are black and you're a white athlete and your teammates are saying, hey, we're protesting in the name of social justice, in the name of racial equality. If you're white and you choose not to participate because you don't want to kneel during the anthem, you don't want to do something that a lot of people see as disrespectful towards the national anthem, okay, disrespectful towards the country, then you can be called a racist, right? You can be called a racist, and you probably will be seen as racist for not doing it. Now, if you do end up kneeling, then you're going to be seen as disrespecting the country and disrespecting the flag and the anthem. So it's really a double-edged sword. Either way, you're going to lose. So I can only imagine how some of these athletes feel in the locker room when people like Megan Rapinoe allegedly are trying to bully them into taking a stance that they don't really want to take. A lot of these players come from conservative parts of this country, right? She said that, she's from North Carolina, Hope Solo, right? And I can imagine, me being from North Carolina as well. She's right. There's a lot of conservative people here, right? Most people, I think, are pretty conservative in most of the state, right? So that being said, she's probably not one of these people that's going to go out there and that's going to be kneeling for the national anthem. And she probably feels some type of way about the fact that Megan Rapinoe was pressuring people to kneel during the national anthem. That's why she said bullying, okay? Bullying. She used the word bullying. She didn't say pressure. She said bullying, okay? She was a bully, right? Because Megan Rapinoe would probably get her feelings hurt if people didn't do what she wanted, right? If people didn't get on board with her political stances and views, even though, some of her teammates obviously probably don't agree with Megan Rapinoe and some of her super woke views. And you can tell because she says that as athletes, we should focus more on winning. Our number one priority should be winning. And I agree with this, right? There is no pressure, particularly from those on the right, for athletes to take a stand on anything. There's no pressure for athletes to do anything except go out there and be the best athletes they can be the best entertainers they can be, because that's what they're getting paid to do. I don't need my athletes or my favorite athletes or whatever to go out there and take a stand on the field and for social justice or political things. I don't, because I realize that a majority of these athletes are not well versed in politics or the things that are going on in this country. So with that being said, why would I expect somebody who's ignorant on a subject to speak out on something that they don't know just because they're famous, right? Conservatives are not putting pressure on athletes to do that. Conservatives just want to watch sports and not be preached to, right? We turn on the news when we want to see politics. We turn on sports when we want to be entertained. It's really that simple. But the pressure really is coming from those on the left, the woke revolutionaries who want athletes to take a stance and to sacrifice their money and their livelihood in exchange for what really is just virtue signaling. Right? Because ultimately, in the day, the best form of change is through money, right? And when athletes go out here and they protest, some of them will get paid for it, right? Through Nike and sponsorships and stuff like that. But a lot of them will suffer overall because fans are going to turn off the television. And when fans turn off the TV, they stop going to the games, they stop watching. That ultimately is going to hurt the players in the pockets, which is really going to hinder their ability to create the change that they say that they want, right? So, I can imagine that there's a lot of people in the locker room that just like, no, I don't want to carry the weight of the world on my shoulders. Like Hope Solo says, it seems like LeBron James has. But see, LeBron James can do that because LeBron James is a superstar athlete in the NBA. LeBron James has already made his money. LeBron James, his goal, really, in my opinion, is to eventually be a politician, to go into politics. That's why he cozies up so much to the Democrat Party. Because I think that he wants to potentially be a rep. He wants to be a senator. Maybe he wants to run for president one day. Okay, I really do believe that about LeBron James. So people like LeBron James, they can go out there and be political. They can go out there and potentially, piss off fans, and be disrespectful to the country and say and do whatever, because at the end of the day, like, they're paid. They have their money, right? And ultimately, they want to get into politics. LeBron James wants to be a political figure. That's what he's trying to do. But again, most players are not like that. So I definitely see where Hope Solo is coming from here, right? And I think it's really a shame that you do have athletes out there like Megan Rapinoe who will bully teammates into taking stances that they don't want to take. Okay, stances that's ultimately going to end up hurting them and against their values and things that they want to stand for. It's really a shame that athletes do that, and I really don't understand why would you do that. Okay, but let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.